Hey everyone, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. This segment has been recorded yesterday as a part of the video, but it turned out to be way too long, so that's why I'm releasing it as a separate video. Forgive some of the awkwardness and enjoy. And here we go into the analysis mode. So here there are going to be two analysts that I believe have two perspectives that support each other. And I think it draws the general narratives that I read from a lot of other analysts and experts as well. So let's start. The first one is Mick Ryan. Mick Ryan is retired Australian general, and he is having his own Substack. I will obviously link everything in below. And he was talking about the Kursk operation and what are the phases and what are the potential for the outcome for Ukraine. I will comment a little bit on the Mick's article later on. You are able to read it all, but I will tell you just the key points. So right now the status is that Ukrainian troops appear to continue expanding their territory holdings in Kursk Oblast, and that's pretty good. He notes a couple of key settlements towards which Ukraine is moving, and I already know that Ukraine is present, as I stated, in some of these settlements. This analysis was a couple of days ago. So he talks about the next phase. Like all military operations, this Ukrainian Kursk operation will have been planned as a multi-phase operation, including the prelude shaping operation, and these shaping operations would have included all of the intelligence collections, force preparation, deception operations, security, logistics, and other aspects necessary to prepare the Ukrainian OMGK for battle. Other phases of the operation will have been planned, including break-in and breakthrough battles, ongoing exploitation and consolidation phases. These phases will have a range of forces and support elements applied to each. So he states that in total there would be five phases to operation: planning, break-in, breakthrough, exploitation, and consolidation. So the first phase, the break-in and breakthrough, are complete. They are currently in exploitation phase. Many operations also normally include a limit of exploitation, which is governed by things like terrain, logistics, posture, and reaction of the enemy, as well as the operational and strategic objectives of this operation. As the Russians slowly but surely begin redeployment forces to seal off the breach in their border and attempt to push the Ukrainians back to Ukraine, it is worth pondering the options of the Ukrainians might have once they reach the limit of the exploitation. And this is very crucial because this underscores what I have been stating before, is that we do not know what were the objectives of Ukrainian operation. Maybe it was just create a bloody wound on the Russian territory. If that was actually the goal, then it succeeded tenfold. If there was a more like a higher level goal with reaching and cutting up some logistics or something else, maybe that was not achieved, or maybe it was achieved. Again, we will find out only later. As of right now, if the goal was to get Russian troops from the other sides of the front line, it's already working. Russian troops are being redeployed to Kursk area. There is now a chaos in command in the Russian forces. But with that said, there are Russian troops that are flowing into the Kursk region, and some of these troops do know how to fight. So they do set up ambushes, they do catch certain Ukrainian forward-moving groups, and you will see Russians posting images of destroying Ukrainian vehicles, capturing Ukrainians, killing Ukrainians, etc. That is the nature of war, and that is the nature of the phase that Ukraine finds itself in. But Mick Ryan here continues, and he says that Ukraine has three options, which I don't completely agree, and we're going to come back to it when we go into the second analysis option. So option one is for Ukrainian group to consolidate on the terrain they have seized so far and then defend it until some form of negotiations take place. This is the high-risk option because, as the map shows, the Ukrainian dispositions feature multiple small salients which would be easily cut off and destroyed by even a semi-competent Russian commander. This is where we go into this map right over here, and that's why I'm stating that this map is very conservative. Some of the more aggressive maps, they're showing that Ukraine is not advancing so narrowly, that a lot of these are like thin salients that Ukraine is kind of moving towards different locations, and this is not actual directions. I'm just kind of drawing you what he means. And what Mick Ryan is stating is that Russians can easily see these salients and then can just undercut and destroy Ukrainian forces. So what he's stating is to make sure that these forward-moving groups try to go back to the core forces and try to consolidate this area to not have any major appendices exposed, so it becomes more of a brick layer where Ukraine will be able to consolidate what they currently have gained. Option number 2. The second option is for Ukrainian group to undertake a partial withdrawal from the territory it has seized back to the ground that is more defensible. This is a medium risk option. This is what I just explained to you. With a decreased risk in option 1. It would rely on the Ukrainians conducting a withdrawal into the pre-designated terrain that is easier to defend, requiring a smaller quantity of troops to defend, and is able to be supported by fires, logistics, and functions more efficiently. And then option 3 is for Ukraine to fully withdraw back to the international border between Russia and Ukraine. This would permit Ukraine to maximize the political and strategic benefits of operation into Russia while preserving the large body of experienced combat troops that might be employed on subsequent offensive operations in 2024 and 2025. Essentially, taking all of the political benefits that came with the attack into Russia and reaping the benefits of Russia redeploying some of the troops and just using the troops that Ukraine has to maybe strengthen the front line somewhere else, and having the stance that, Russia, we can still invade you if we want to. We still have the forces. I think the third option is the silliest one because Putin is all in. I don't feel that he's playing a political game, so I don't really see the third option having this political stance, political benefits, is most crucial right now. I feel that the most crucial right now is to continue inducing pain on the Russian forces. This operation is clearly a morale boost for Ukrainian citizens and their armed forces. As one soldier was quoted in The Economist about the Battle of Kursk, "For the first time in a long time, we have movement. I felt like a tiger." And it's hard to disagree with this. At some point, the combination of Russian military pressure and the sustainability of Ukrainian operations will mean that offensive operation can continue advances are no longer possible. Judging when this might be the case has technical command inputs. And he finishes with this. This Ukrainian operation represents a very significant effort on the part of Ukrainians to reset the status quo in the war and change the narratives about Ukraine prospects in this war. It is the kind of strategic risk-taking that I don't think is well understood in many Western capitals anymore. For nearly 2 generations now, Western nations have been able to cut military spending. None of them have faced existential threats, even though the war on terror did require a significant response for more than a decade after 9/11. The slow decision-making cycles in Western military and political circles and in military procurement is indicative of institutions that no longer understand the imperative to act quickly and decisively while taking major risk. So the reason why I took the interview the writing by Mick Ryan is because he understands the Western perspective. He's really good into analyzing what would be the Western doctrine, the Western perspective. And now I want to switch to the second interview by the expert by the name of Agil Rustamzadeh. Agil Rustamzadeh has been very good because he understands Russians extremely well. He knows how the Russian general machine works. He knows how the military machine works. He understands the policies and politics, and he has been very critical of the Ukrainian military when they tried to use the Soviet tactics, and he stated how Ukraine should adapt, and to only see a year later Ukrainians finally adapting the recommendations that he's been voicing for a long time. So this guy has clearly seen into the future of this conflict, and he understands what are the key points. So here he talks about the operation in Kursk. He says, Ukraine is conducting a multi-domain operation which is taking place both on the battlefield and the information space and in cyberspace. Therefore, operation is automatically at a minimum operational level, which has both political and media goals and has a very high military expediency, a very successful well thought out operation. This is crucial. This is why I'm stating that not only the analysts that are moving the pieces around the board are crucial, but also the political and other aspects should be taken into account. And it is stated that this operation is well thought out. Regarding military expediency, let's discuss in more detail. What do you mean? Before the Kursk operation, I partially criticized the Ukrainian army for the fact that the paradigm of linear defense is not entirely suitable for Ukraine due to the fire impact of superior enemy forces and airstrikes. To be precise, is that Ukraine cannot really man the defensive lines the same way as Russia because the impact of the aviation bombs is just too strong. Ukrainian defenses fall apart before they can rebuild because the impact of that aviation bomb is so significant. So protecting the lines becomes almost impossible compared to what Russia did during the Ukrainian summer offensive. He continues, this does not allow us to preserve our territory and inflict the necessary level of damage and losses on the enemy. The transition from the paradigm of linear defense to the paradigm of maneuverable defense with small forces and increased reconnaissance and strike capabilities allows Ukraine to achieve very large results with small forces. And it is crucial to understand this because I always talk about that if you're not ready to sacrifice your troops, if you're not ready to sacrifice your equipment, then the third resource that will need to go is the territory. That's why, for example, Ukraine has been losing more territory is because they were trying to transition away from some of the linear defense paradigms and trying to do mobile defense, drone-based defense, striking and inflicting pain on the Russian occupiers. Most likely, they will need to withdraw troops from the Donetsk regions, talking about Russians, because Ukraine controls 1,000 square kilometers. This means that the Russian army will need a very large military resource to stop the Ukrainian offensive. From a military point of view, this is an expedient attack that broke the paradigm of linear defense, and this was Russia's initiative, in which Ukraine was slowly being exhausted. So before that attack, Russians were dominating the way that Ukrainians were acting, and it was Syrskyi's planning, his decision, his plan, and execution of this operation that broke the neck of that paradigm, allowing Ukrainians to move away from fighting Russians head on. This withdrawal of forces and resources by Russia from the east, north, and south, how critical it will be? To answer this question, we need to reveal and predict the effectiveness of the Ukrainian army. And this is difficult now because the effectiveness of the Ukrainian army also depends on the fight against Russian reconnaissance drones. The primary goal to relieve the tensions from other sections of the front is to increase the tensions on the Russian army. To disperse their efforts is being achieved. And this concerned not only ground troops because of the operations in the Kursk region. Russian aviation has to carry out some flights and drop aerial bombs in the Kursk region. And this goal has been achieved. So he is stating that it's crucial to win the drone war for Ukrainians, to win the aerial war with the small aviation, to make sure that Russia don't have enough eyes in the sky to fully assess the situation in Kursk. And it is crucial that the aviation will stop bombing Ukrainian trenches in Ukraine and will start sending the bombs over to the Russian territory, burdening the aviation to work inside Russia rather than assaulting Ukrainian defensive positions. And it is working. When Russia finally transfers sufficient forces to Kursk and recovers from the initial shock, will Ukrainian armed forces have to retreat in any case? And this is where I think he hits the nail on the head of what we should expect, and I think what should be the plan of the Ukrainian armed forces. He states, I don't think that the Ukrainian army set itself the goal of occupying and holding the Kursk region, because Russia is a huge country. But at the same time, a competent retreat of the Ukrainian army will also cause very great damage to the Russian army. Kursk right now is a magnet of the Russian military. If Ukraine will not dig in and hold that territory at all cost, but instead will start slowly retreating as Russia accumulates more and more pressure, while at the same time inflicting significant damage to Russia, This will be the best outcome because Ukraine will get both all of the political benefits of incursion of Russia and also will set a lot of damage to the Russian forces. And I think this is hopefully the scenario that we're going for. And this is what we need to expect for the future, that at some point Ukrainian advances will stop and it will potentially start falling back while doing the assaults against the Russian attacks against the Russian forces. So in this scenario, is the of the Ukrainian armed forces securing a foothold Kursk region still possible? And he says that if Ukraine stays in Kursk, that this will be a return to the linear defense paradigm. And I believe that it would be a mistake. So talking about the possibility of capturing the nuclear power plant, he states that it's unlikely because this was possible during some of the first day when there was a shock and awe. At this moment, he does not believe that Ukraine can reach the power plant. He also thinks that that for Russia to stop, there will need to be additional resources brought in from Russia beyond what they're currently getting. So he would consider that we should expect some kind of a forced mobilization, but that mobilization is not going to be public. It's going to be hidden, and it's going to be the outcome that that Russia would probably need if it wants to continue staying in the fight. I hope these insights into these experts gave you a little bit more perspective of what's the situation in Ukraine and what to expect. I still call on everyone to participate in our slowly ongoing campaign for the Ukrainian armed forces that are still fighting and still capturing the villages inside of Russia. We are continuing this campaign. We're now past the 309,000 mark, which is incredible. And from this fund, there's already money that's being withdrawn to purchase drones, equipment, and so on. So this is an ongoing campaign. We're just going to continue it most probably until the end of August. In any case, I love you. Slava Ukraini. Trust in the Ukrainian armed forces. And I see you next time.